Squash. A lot of people don't know what to do with these if they see them in the store, or if somebody gives them to them, or if they get them from their farm share. These are super nutritious. You can do a ton of different things with them, but they're hard and people don't know how to fix this in the kitchen. So I'm going to show you how to start squash. The one thing that I think I've ever actually made in the kitchen that my stepson actually likes to eat is squash soup. So I'm going to show you squash soup because also it's super easy. We can wash out the outside of the squash, but it's not pertinent because we're not going to use the outside or try to deal with the outside anyway. I got this one from my farm share, and it's been sitting in my kitchen carefully hung up for about a month, so it's a little old, and that's good because that'll show us what we can do with a slightly older piece of vegetable like this. How can I tell it's a little old? It's got a spot here that's going bad, so that's not so good. But it really doesn't matter that much. I think when I cut this open, the rest of it's going to be okay, so let's try it. I love cutting open squash because it's exciting. I put it on a cookie sheet like this so it doesn't splatter. I have a mallet that I keep just for squash, and I have a cheap Chinese cleaver that I also keep just for squash, and this is what I do. I try to center this whack. Take the mallet, I'm sure there's some other more clever way of doing this. I can't imagine what that would be. I get it down one side. I could put a cutting board under it, but it doesn't really matter to me. I don't care about the safety of either my cooking sheet or my mallet because this is a $5 Chinese mallet that I keep just for this purpose. Do it on the other side, match it up in the cut. I don't know how else you would deal with squash. Now, it smells fabulous, and that's how you know this is a perfectly good squash. There's nothing wrong with this squash. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape out the seeds. If you were super ambitious, you could toast those and eat those with a little salt on them. They're yummy, but I don't care that much today. And then I'm going to rub oil on them, and I'm going to put them in the oven at like 350 degrees, or 375, or 400 if I'm in a hurry. It doesn't much matter. I'm going to cook it until when I stick a fork in it, it's squishy. That's what I want from my squash. So I'm going to put it in there for like 350 for an hour, and then I'm going to come back and check it, and I'm going to do all this stuff while I'm letting that happen. I don't need to watch that. The bad spot, which is right here, I'm going to ignore, because when I come back and this is all cooked, I'm going to be scraping the cooked flesh out of the shell, and I'm just going to leave that bad spot there. So I don't even really have to deal with it. This is one seed that didn't make it through the murdering, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to scrape that out. So I'll show you a picture of it just like before I put it in the oven, but it can't get any simpler than this. So I'm scraping this into the dirty bowl that I just made pancakes in. Disgusting. They would never show you that on television. But why do I care? This is my kitchen. This isn't a television set. And I don't want to wash two bowls. Even like I said, I don't even wash the bowls. My husband washes the bowls, but there's no reason to make two bowls dirty. So I'm scraping these nuts into the bowl so that I can just empty that into the trash, and it will be fine. Get out some of the fibrous part. It's just a little chewy. It's nasty to taste. And then I get my trusty grapeseed oil out again. Why would I use that instead of olive oil? Because it doesn't have any flavor. Why would I use it instead of butter? Because again, it's easier to deal with. I would have to melt the butter and rub it on. I'm going to put a ton of butter in this soup though. Okay, here's my nice yummy cooked squash, and you can see that I've tried to demonstrate sticking a fork into it a couple of times and couldn't video it, but this is exactly what we want. The fork goes right in and comes out. It's all goldeny brown, and it's going to scoop right out of the skin when we get it ready to make the soup, and that's exactly what we want. Okay, onions. We have to chop them fast because we're actually trying to feed the kids and get everything done, and I've been out to the pool, see pool hair, so I'm going to chop these onions without a videographer. Okay, I can tell my camera is going to end up smelling like onions. I've got a clean pot here, and I'm going to put the onions in it. And this is cloves and cinnamon that I ground up together, and we're going to talk about different types of spices later. But that is just going to flavor this soup. It's kind of like a pumpkin pie type of a soup. And there's not much left, put the rest in. And there's a little bit of that omnipresent oil in the bottom. sizzling away. Fantastic. Now as these onions are frying in this fat with these spices, it smells fantastic. I'm going to add some butter. As I said, this is going to be a very butter-heavy soup. And if you add the butter at this point, the water will cook out of it. Butter. This one's for you, Len. All of it.
Water. Go.
Okay, this is a job that is not for the squeamish. The squash is greasy, and it's slippery, and it's squishy, but it's not hot because it's been sitting out on the counter cooling all afternoon while I did other stuff. And now I just have to get my hands in here and get the squash out of the skin. Now some people peel the skin off with a peeler. I can't really deal with that. I just sort of do the opposite, which is swearing and getting really confused by the mush of the squash. But I do make sure that I don't get any of the peel in the soup. So if you look down in the pot, you can see that I've got the cooked onions in there with the spices, and now the squash and the butter. And that is all that is in there. And all I'm going to add is going to be stock. Now what's going to happen is that I'm going to end up with a very rich, thick concentrate of soup. And the way I serve it before I give it to anybody is I add a big squash of milk, and that makes it into a cream soup. So I don't actually cook the milk. That way I can keep the soup concentrated and it's less of it to store and easy to serve. And then when I add the milk to it, it just sort of cools it down for anybody who's going to be eating it. Now if you're more frugal than me and probably a better person, you will be more careful about getting all this last bit of squash out. But I basically just do it until I can't stand fussing with it anymore. And then I stop. And we're just adding chicken stock until it comes like part way up the pile of squash. If I can smoosh it all around like this, and there's still some squash sticking up out of the stock, that is perfect. These like box things are so brilliant for chicken stock. You have them on hand and you can put the top back on and put them in the fridge, which you can never do with the canned stuff. Plus the canned stuff always has MSG in it, which I really cannot eat. Okay, now this has been bubbling for about 10 minutes. It's hot all the way through, and the squash is nice and cooked, and the onions are cooked. It's awesome. So what I'm going to do is probably add just a little bit more stock, because some of it cooked off, and then I'm going to puree it with a stick blender.
Okay, go.
Okay, stick blender, plugged in. Squish it around in the soup until it's pureed. It's got like a knife bladey thing at the bottom. It's like a blender, but you can just stick it down in the soup rather than like ladling the soup into a blender or anything like that. That's it, you can stop there. That is the blade. I don't know why my camera operator didn't tell me there's no blade in that thing. Works so much better with the blade in it. Look at this. Okay, now what we have is soup concentrate. That is too thick to eat, but it is fabulous stuff. I'll show you how you eat it. That's literally about half a cup of the soup.